ये सब लोग स्पीकर कौन है?
स्पीकर ऑन है क्या से?
ख्याल से नहीं बोले में तो सुनो।
So your speaker is on. We can hear you.
Okay, fine, good. Thank you. So, are we ready for the program?
Sir, we are ready for the program. We are supposed to start at 2:30, so maybe we'll wait for 3 more minutes so that others can also join.
Certainly.
Okay, right.
And what would be the structure of the program?
Pardon, sir?
What would be the structure of the program?
Sir, what we are going to do, I'll introduce the program and then I'll invite our ADG to welcome you, and then we'll have your session for 2 minutes or so, and then we'll take questions from our students.
Very good.
Right.
Great. So, what is the comfort of the students in terms of language?
So both bilingual. So we have students from Hindi journalism also, and we have 2 bilingual courses, which is radio and television and advertising and public relations. So it will be good that if it is bilingual, both.
Okay, fine. Great. Good. And students from which institutes are joining us?
Sir, primarily students of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, but students from other institutes also join us through our social media handles.
Oh, fine. Great.
ये एडवोकेट है जिसने हम जिस कॉन्सेप्चुअल एम्प्लॉय उनका केस कर रहे हैं, उसका इतना पेमेंट है 1 लाख।
कौन सा है एडवोकेट?
अमरीश वगैरह जो यहाँ परमानेंट वो कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल कैजुअल एम्प्लॉय जिन्हें केस किया 7 लाख एक एक्सपायर हो गया। 90,000 की फीस है, 15,000 की फैसिलिटी है।
ठीक है, लगन में माल।
Sanjay sir, your mic is on. If you could please.
Hello.
Sanjay sir, your mic is on. If you can mute it for a while. Yeah.
तो संजय जी यहाँ बैठे हुए?
Yes sir, he is here.
नमस्कार।
सर नमस्कार।
नमस्ते।
आपको सुनने का अवसर छोड़ना नहीं चाहता सर।
जी
हमारे लोगों के लिए समय निकाला जी।
नहीं बहुत
वेलकम सर।
बहुत बढ़िया, थैंक यू।
Okay, sir, we'll start now. Most of the students have joined. So, very good afternoon, everyone. DG IIMC, ADG Mr. Satish Nambudripal, Dean Student Welfare Professor Pramod, Dean Academics Professor Govind Singh, all the faculty members of IIMC, all the staff of IIMC, and the students. I welcome you all to this another session of Friday Dialogue series, which is conceived by Professor Sanjay Dwivedi, and we have actually listened to a lot of good lectures in the past 2 months, and I think this is an excellent attempt to take students beyond classroom and beyond curriculum. We got to know number of other things which we actually study in our curriculum. So this, I feel, it enriches students and their learning process. Today we'll be discussing on reinventing Marshall McLuhan, And in fact, Marshall McLuhan is very much and a very important part of media curriculum and communication curriculum. But unfortunately, we do not spend too much of time talking about him and his work. And this lecture, I'm sure that we'll get to learn a lot of things about him and about his work. As we know that he's a Canadian communication theorist, and he has written a number of books, and one of the very popular book which he has written is Understanding Media. And we've known his phrases, and I think whosoever is in the field of media, they know about the medium is the message and the global village which is being given by him, and which are so relevant even today. So we'll be talking about him in detail. And before I invite our guest for today, Mr. Ajay Upadhyay, I would like to request our ADG, Mr. Satish Namboodiripal ji, to please welcome our guest. Over to you, sir. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Anubhuti Yadav ji. Shri Ajay Upadhyay ji, the chief guest of the evening. DG IIMC, Professor Dwivedi, Dean Academics, other professors, faculty members, regional directors from all the 5 regions have also joined, and our dear students. Sir, as Professor Anubhuti Yadav had mentioned, that this is a scheme of outreach activity that we have recently started in IIMC. Professor Dwivedi is the architect behind it. We have conceived it as a Friday dialogue by senior, professionals, important thinkers, educationists, or media professionals or communication experts to talk to the students of IIMC on various aspects connected with their curriculum and social or political topics of great importance, forward-looking topics. And you are the guest. We are extremely happy that you have accepted our invite to join this event for the day. Friends, as far as Ajay Upadhyay is concerned, I don't think he needs introduction. He's a veteran journalist of over 3 decades of experience in the field. Very recently, I'm told that it is in 2015 onwards, he relaunched the once very famous newspaper called Patriot. He relaunched it as editor and print publisher of Patriot. Sir, by the way, I have a very small relationship with the name Patriot. Arthat Narayan and onwards, the Patriot is a newspaper where the great names of today have all started there, cut their teeth, as I say. Sir, I haven't been student. Sir, you were saying something, sir?
It was a great school of journalism at one point of time.
Precisely, sir. That is it, sir. Sir, I happen to be a student of Indian Institute of Mass Communication in the 1990 batch in English journalism, and the newspaper that I was selected from IIMC was Patriot. We finally was a manager, so I had a stint with the Patriot with nearly 6-7 months or something before branching out into the Indian civil service. I went into the civil service, and currently I'm less of a journalist, more of a civil servant, and I'm working here in my capacity as a Additional Director General here. But people who have joined with us, Unirajan Shankar, Bhavna, Wage, etc., they're all big names. We all cut our teeth in journalistic profession in Patriot. So Patriot was my first employer. I still have the what they call the job offer letter that they sent, and the first salary, etc. These are part of some nearly 35 years back, while I was hardly 22, 23 years old. So Patriot is a name, very, very, and then straight away went into it. And friends, but that is not the topic of the day. Afterwards, and Shri Upadhyay ji, he had also served as editor-in-chief of Hindustan and Amar Ujala, well versed in the theory and practice of journalism. Shri Upadhyay started his career as with Dainik Aaj and went on to be associated with some of the country's leading media houses. serving as National Bureau Chief of Dainik Jagaran, executive producer of Aaj Tak, and director in the erstwhile Channel 7. He had also led and established Jagaran Institute of Management and Mass Communication, and was elected Secretary General of Editors Guild of India. As Professor Yadav had mentioned, he is talking today on a very important topic, the reinventing Marshall McLuhan. Friends, Marshall McLuhan's name is synonymous with the famous statement. I mean, as Professor Yadav was mentioning, one is medium is a message. I mean, the name of the book that he had written subsequently was Medium is the Massage. I'm sure that you are aware of that matter also. And also Global Village. These terminologies have become part of our normal talking or communication media lexicon, something like to be or not to be in English, or E is equal to MC square for science people, etc. You know, even without knowing the exact meaning, people use it. E is equal to MC square, everybody says, but very few people will be able to distinct, I mean, you know, to describe it properly. So same is the case with this Marshall McLuhan's this statement also. We all use the medium as a massage or medium as a message. But to know it, to look at, to go into the depth of the statement, what exactly it means, very few journalists or even communication professionals will be able to do that. I'm sure that Professor Ajayji's, Upadhyayji's lecture will definitely throw a lot of light into it. People say that there are 4 types of main communication. We use verbal, non-verbal, written, and visual. Even the nodding of our head in our communication as part of our agreement or something, this is a sort of a non-verbal communication. So what exactly this statement means? People say that quite simply, it means that the way we send and receive information is more important than the information itself. Medium is a message. You know, Global Village, we all know now that how the distance between people have, I mean, physical distance between people have shrunk, but the mental distance between people have increased. That is a whole, I mean, you know, underbelly of the concept called what do you call the Global Village also. What they call the allegory of the light, I mean, bulb or television, etc. I'm sure that students of literature, you would have read a little bit about Marshall McLuhan. Let us listen to the veteran journalist and the communication theorist and a thinker, Sri Upadhyayji, Ajay Upadhyayji, on his very informed discussion on reinventing Marshall McLuhan today. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. I extend a very warm welcome to you and introduce you to the students of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, both in Delhi and our 5 regional campuses. Thank you, sir. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. In fact, like you've done my job, I was supposed to introduce sir, but good that you've done that. So thank you. So before we start and before I invite you to interact with the audience, just a little bit about, you know, who are watching this particular program. All our students from IIMC, like we have a Department of Advertising and Public Relations, Radio and Television, Journalism, Hindi and English both. Then all our students from our regional centers, like we have students studying Marathi journalism, Urdu journalism, Uriya journalism, and you know, they are listening and watching this particular program. And besides this, this program is being aired on our social media. So we do have a lot of media educators from across the country who keep you know, watching our program. In fact, now we have a lot of IIMC aspirants because we are now going to start the admission process for the next year. So they keep visiting our social media and they, you know, listen to like whatever programs we air. So this is like your audience for today's lecture. As far as the format is concerned, sir, so as I said before, it would be a lecture of 40 minutes. And after that, we'll take questions from the students. Just a request to the students, as we've been following in the past, you're not allowed to ask questions. If you have any questions, so please write it in the chat box and we'll take the selected students and I'll pose those questions to Mr. Upadhyay. Over to you, sir, now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Dwivedi, who's the Director General of Indian Institute of Mass Communication, the staff, Professor Yadav, Professor Nambudripad, and Professor Sani, and all others, faculty members. And my greetings goes out to the students and whatever we call them as audience as we unfold today in this lecture. We will be coming across many terminologies, and we are today going to deal with a man who was very lucid in his understanding of things, but very complicated to read. He was master of the audiovisual subjects, but he preferred to write. He was present on television interviews, but an incredible man of 20th century who was featured twice on the Time magazine. And why I say reinventing Marshall McLuhan is because 2020 is the year of COVID-19. And in COVID-19, everything happened the way Marshall McLuhan used to visualize in 50s and 60s and 70s. And 2020 stopped even the circulation of newspapers to a large extent. Everybody was confined to their homes, and a lot of activities which could have gone online actually continued, and continued during the worst days also. And Marshall McLuhan could foresee all that some 50 years back, 60 years back. He was the man who predicted internet. If you listen to his interview to Canadian Broadcasting Service, there he answers the anchor football by saying that there would come a day when you'll pick up the telephone. Imagine there was no mobile phone then. It was the telephone instrument in 1966. And he said that you'll pick up the telephone and you'd say that I'm doing research on some subject of Roman Empire or something else, and I know German and I know English, but I don't know Latin. And the system will provide you all the answers, put it before you so that you can proceed on your research work from that. He predicted that in 1966. I think internet has yet not reached that stage, but if you look at it, it is almost nearby that. That's what Marshall McLuhan was. And as rightly pointed out by the moderator, Professor Yadav, and ADG, Professor Namboodiripad, the two keywords are medium is the message and global village. But before we embark upon this exercise, I would like to introduce McLuhan briefly. Let me warn you in the beginning itself that 40 minutes is not the right time to introduce and talk about McLuhan in detail. But as journalists, we are in the habit of reducing every news to 40 words, to 100 words, to 400 words. So taking that expertise and learning, taking a cue from that, I would like to introduce McLuhan. What kind of a person he was, what kind of a personality he was, how his personality was shaped in his initial years. You'd be surprised to know, I'm talking to students and that's a great opportunity. You'd be surprised to know that he completed his BA and MA from University of Manitoba in Canada, Western Canada. And his mother was very ambitious lady. He could not actually get out all from her husband, so she focused on the son, Marshall, to fulfill her ambitions. And her ambition was that her son must go to either Cambridge or Oxford. He was a boy who completed his BA and MA from Manitoba University in Canada, mother was still insistent upon. He missed Oxford, but then he got admission in Cambridge as an undergraduate student. After doing his MA, he did his BA again, which is a very rare thing in the life of any academician or any student. And then he went from Canada to England. It was in 1934. He was born in 1911. And 1934 is in between the First World War and the Second World War. There was a Great Depression on. England was also under its pressure. US was completely under depression. And that was the time when a lot of academic intellectuals in England were working out various theories. That was the time when mass culture or the popular culture, what we call pop culture, was also emerging. And here in this atmosphere in Cambridge was Marshall McLuhan. And he was out because he had already done his BA and MA, he was out to learn everything, to understand everything. And there was a professor called A.I. Richards. It's just a coincidence that the Times of India during those days asked Richards to write the book of Simple English by A.I. Richards. And they were the literature guy. Marshall McLuhan was a professor of English. He had not studied communication the way communication was studied. But in literary theory also, in fashion those days was new criticism. And this new criticism was in favor of reading very closely the literature and especially the poetry. And McLuhan threw himself into it. Meaning of meaning, that was what everybody wanted to understand those days. By meaning of meaning, you will be actually surprised to know that the meaning of word to read is to make guess. That is what the big dictionary, when I say big dictionary, there are big dictionaries of 10 volumes with 2 letters, 3 letters in each volume. The big dictionary says when it derives the meaning, it says that to read means is to guess. And that's what they used to do. So making guess of everything. So his background was literature. He was influenced greatly by James Joyce. And he would always call himself a Joycean student, And there was reason for that. Because it was Joyce, and I believe that students are well aware about the glory of James Joyce in 20th century. Just to introduce him, I just say that James Joyce was named as the person of literature in 20th century by the Time magazine when it ran a series of the great people of 20th century. James Joyce was named as the person of 20th century in literature. Now it was James Joyce. Why I'm talking about literature and its relation to communication and Marshall McLuhan is because it was James Joyce in his book called Finnegan's Wake. It's a very difficult book to read. I don't know whether your students will be keen to go through that book, but mostly people who think they are very literate, they go through that book and find it difficult to even go through 2 pages to 3 pages. That's the kind of book Finnegan's Wake is. And in the Finnegan's Wake, James Joyce predicts many things. Where he has predicted television, where he has predicted automation, cars, These kind of things were predicted in that book, and they were discussed. Its impact was discussed. And Marshall McLuhan always says that I'm not a student to study the impact of communication or television or radio, but I study the impact, which is the effect. So there's an audience, there's an impact, and then there's an effect. And Marshall always said that I study the effect, not the impact of the content or whatever medium it is in. So that was the specific area of study of Marshall McLuhan. He would study the cultural effect, not the impact per se. Coming back to Joyce. So Joyce in Finnegan's Wake uses a term called urbi, URBI, from urban, the short form of urban. Urbi, it, ORB, which he has taken. He used to use pun and twist in his language. He was a great experimenter. This was the term used by the Pope for his Easter message earlier, when there was no television, when there was no radio. The Pope for the Easter message would deliver two messages. One was for the city of Rome, which was local, and the other was for his global audience all over the world, the Christianity. And that was known as Urbi, URBI, et Orbi, ORBI, which is global. And from there, the sense of what we call global village, Orbi et Urbi, global and local. So Marshall actually had the sense, and he derived it from, it is speculated by his son Eric McLuhan, who has also authored a book with father Marshall McLuhan. He says that it is my assessment that he got this global village meaning from James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. So this was for that. But global village is more than that. When Marshall McLuhan says global village, in fact, James Joyce also says in his book that with the advent of electricity and mass use of electricity in society, the world shall be retribalized. Retribalized. The world shall be retribalized by electricity, as the world was before mechanical world, in the slice world. And this retribalization, actually in the global village, Marshall McLuhan says that when the information shall travel at the speed of electricity, the world shall behave in a tribal manner. Now that's the crux. After having introduced this concept of electricity, the retribalization of society, the global village, and the platform, the medium. Medium is the message. And when he says that same content may not hold true or good when the same content is flowed on one platform, one medium, and when it is flowed on the other platform or other medium, like print. So when the print came, and I think he has provided enough history in his book, Understanding Media, Extension of Man. That's the name of the complete, that's the complete name of the book, Understanding Media and Man, it's extension to man. Now, if you take that book, he has talked about enough about print, about television, about radio, about telephone, about transport, about health service. You name the subject. automation. He talks about everything because he thought that it is information which is more important, and that information transforms even, it is impacted by the media. So medium per se, when you say, and it is the support of the electricity which is important. So then the print as a platform, as a medium, print as a medium was transforming the world after Gutenberg. Now, I think as student of mass media, you must have heard about Gutenberg, who introduced the movable types in 15th century, 1440 nearby, around that in Germany. He transformed the world as never before. As never before. Printing changed the world. But you'll be surprised to know that before 1700, more than 50% of the books printed then actually were the reprinting of the old religious text, some classical text. They were only being printed before 17th century. After that came a flood of printing books and creation of new content. So creation of a new content for the print media came en masse after 17th century. So that's one thing which is important. And how did print change the world? Because the information would move at a very different style than it moved before that. And after the print came telegraph, which is the most significant development in the history of information. And telegraph came, this was the industrialization. Industrial revolution was happening. And I think by 1840, 1845, telegraph came into full view. By 1848, it became commercial. That was the time when railways came in. That was the time when health services were coming in. If you remember Florence Nightingale, Marshall McLuhan has introduced her in Understanding Media as the one who started the very concept, the thinking of health services as a service. If you look at all this, and this was the great time for the discovery of many things in electricity. Why I'm calling electricity? Because electricity is something which Marshall McLuhan thinks is an extension of man's central nervous system. And he always visualized that as electricity can impact the central nervous system of man, there can be a universal, global system of awareness, consciousness. And that nervous system, the central nervous system, is what we call the WWW, World Wide Web, Now, this was the concept he was talking about when nobody was talking about. He wrote his first book, Mechanical Bride, in 1952, which was 5 years before a satellite was launched in the sky, Sputnik. And Marshall McLuhan live coverage of events before the 3 satellites were put in the sky, and a live situation was done by television all across the globe together simultaneously. That was his understanding. So moving from print as a technology, as a platform, as a medium to the television for him was a great work. Before that was telegraph, and before that was telephone. He was always surprised by telephone. He called telephone as cool medium. He called television as cool medium. He said print is a hot medium. And cinema is a hot medium. And everybody would wonder what this cool medium is, what this hot medium is, what does it mean? So the content of high definition and the content of low definition. Cool medium will have the content of low definition, and the hot medium will have the content of high definition. And when you say that, a film is a very structured content. When you look at the content and when you look at the medium, it's a medium with a very structured content. They go together. And the audience does not have much scope in the film. He will watch it and watch it in captivity. Similar is the case with the print. But when it comes to television, he used to say that without audience, television is incomplete. And when he said that there would come a time when schools and colleges, students will not need to go to schools and colleges. It would be all through TV. Maybe TV, he said, during his own time. Today, mobile is another extension of TV, another medium, of course, and it's a medium which is different from TV. But it's an extension of that. And as we noticed during COVID, and before that also, the online system is picking up. And it is replacing the traditional. I think in the introduction, Professor Yadav was saying that, curriculum and colleges and Friday dialogue will discuss something beyond curriculum and subject. I think the education per se is moving, as Marshall McLuhan predicted, will move out of colleges and subjects because they are the old-time technologies. When you say television as a medium, it integrates you. It provides an opportunity to the audience. And without audience, it is not complete. Let me just give you an example about it. It's difficult to understand McLuhan's concepts, but let me give you an example. Say, for example, last year everybody thought that IPL may not happen during COVID-19. IPL happened. IPL happened in a stadium. There's no audience there. Audience is sitting at home. And it is said that nearly 20 crore people watched IPL on television, on mobile, and IPL generated a revenue of almost 4,000 crores without audience being physically present in the stadium. That is what McLuhan was predicting 70 years back. He was talking about it. He said it's all extension. So when you say a vehicle, when the first locomotive was built, then it was an extension of horse. When the first axe was invented by mankind, it was an extension of hand. And he would always talk about it. So he would always talk about information. He would always talk about communication. Now this communication was very important for him. So, and he would say that communication and information shall transform the world as nothing else has changed the world ever. And if you look at it, when he was invited, as a professor, he would be invited because everybody was surprised by what he was saying and nobody was able to understand. Not able to understand to an extent that the great communication theorist Wilbur Schramm, I think you must have studied Schramm's model of communication. Wilbur Schramm said that this man is talking all humbug and content is content, medium is medium, and message is message. This is how he condemned it. But if you go and search today, who survived at the end? If you search Marshall McLuhan, the internet is full of it. And if you search Wilbur Schramm, it's difficult to find his biography. The man who condemned the Marshall McLuhan could not survive. And Marshall McLuhan not only survives, he's thriving today. That is what is the strength of his visualization. And he was greatly fascinated by electricity. Electricity is something which, there are 2-3 concepts. I think if we understand it well. So he formulated that television is a cool medium. It requires an audience. It also requires the kind of content which can provoke people so that a dialogue could be established between the two. And why he called it cool? For the simple reason that if you look at, maybe in your house you're going to join family people over dinner, and you will realize that your television is running and nobody is even looking at it. It is not necessary that when television is running and it's on, everybody is looking at it. And suddenly, over the dining table, you'll find somebody, hey, look, there's something important coming. What is this? And suddenly you'll find that some breaking news has arrived from somewhere, or some other thing has arrived, or some character has arrived in an episode, and suddenly you'll find that the entire family is paying attention to television. That's what it is. It is complete only when the audience is participating into that. Then, if you want to understand it, I don't know, it's an open question for the audience. What happens when you watch an old cinema on the television? Does it carry the impact of television, or does it carry the impact of the cinema? Cinema is a very well structured thing. Marshall McLuhan was highly influenced by the advertising, because advertising was highly structured. He said that to write the news, to procure the news, to get the news, to report the news, to write the news in a daily newspaper, you do it in 24 hours and then you go for the print. On television, as it happens, you just bring it to the audience. But an advertising takes, it's not a quick thing. If properly done, an advertising may take from 1 month to 3 months' time to write those 40 words, to write those 60 words, to produce a commercial, of say 2 seconds, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds. And that 3 months hard work puts that commercial, and if it is successful, he says that people live by the advertising. Product is only on the shelf. And there are a lot of people who watch advertising and who read advertising and who go through advertising only to reaffirm their faith in the product they're watching. So he said that a newspaper is like a mosaic, where news is there and alongside the news, there's an advertising. And he said, this is like a jewelry on the body of a lady. Without ad, the newspaper does not look complete. So that's what the print media is. Similarly, in television, you have to have the kind of content which can attract the attention of the audience, and with that, it is complete. In cinema, it's the other way around. He also said that telephone, he was very fascinated by telephone. Telephone is one instrument, I think, if you If you go back to its history, it's very interesting. And I don't know whether I'm running out of time, but I think I will tell you the story. Graham Bell, when he invented the telephone, you know, he was Scottish, and his father lived in Scotland. His mother was deaf. So his father communicated to her in deaf and dumb language. The son also communicated to the mother in deaf and dumb language. So when they shifted to America and they needed some money, then Graham Bell went to teach deaf and dumb students because he knew deaf and dumb communication way. And there he fell in love with a deaf and dumb girl and married her. So his wife was deaf and dumb, his mother was deaf and dumb, and here was a guy who was inventing telephone. And from one room to other room they will speak, and across the road they will speak, and they would say, I'm not able to hear properly what's getting communicated. So he took the instrument to Edison, who ran almost a factory of inventions. And there, Edison put a carbon repeater into the telephone, which increased the volume of the telephone, and telephone became what it became, which transformed the world. You know, when we talk about telephone, we don't understand. You know, Marshall McLuhan used to say that when you talk on the telephone, it's a low definition media, it's a cool media, and you are present everywhere. You are present everywhere, rather you are present nowhere. That's what he used to say. And today, if you look at mobile, I don't know whether we should call it a mobile telephone or we should call it a mobile camera. I was looking at one of the new telephones, mobile phones, which has come, and it has got 6 cameras. I was surprised whether it's a calling machine or it's something else. But the most important thing is, if we want to understand McLuhan, so these are the importance of what McLuhan communicated in terms of his global village concept. So his global village was not exactly only the shrinking of the globe as a village, but he was also concerned about the tribal culture of the villages. So for him it was important that the electricity shall convert the globe into a village, and it will re-tribalize the society. And re-tribalizing society means you have to put another order in place for civilization. Otherwise, the old civilization we are in the habit of living may not hold its relevance in the new culture, the new age. And if you look at the new age, it's very different from what the age was earlier. Television brought in what we call the generation gap. Father would not be able to understand what exactly the children need, because the language they are talking, the content they are talking, and the ability of multitasking is amazing. Father, like the parents, are not able to compete with the children in the modern world. Today, the teacher in school wants to teach the old syllabus to the students, but he does not realize that what he is going to teach actually is all available on Google and on the mobile of the kid, of the student. So the education must change. This is what Marshall McLuhan always wanted. He said that only when the teachers would be able to teach students how to frame new kind of questions. The new education is not about providing knowledge. a student already knows far more than what the teacher knows in the classroom. So knowledge lies outside the boundary of the educational institutions. What is needed is that probing technique, and which is what he used to do. Whenever people would say that your theory does not fit into this and your theory does not fit into some other things, he would say that I'm not interested in all this. I'm interested in asking a question, formulating a question. And once I'm able to formulate a question, then only I would be able to understand it. That is what he would call understanding media. So if you look at the transformational capabilities, so what is electricity? This electricity actually was fascinating to him. And if you understand the background, I think the Professor Newton in 1876 or so, sorry, 1660, 1776 or so, 17th century, the second half of the 17th century, he came up with the gravitational theory. And another Scottish, James Clerk Maxwell, did the electromagnetic theory in 1865. That is the year when another Oxford professor, Charles Ludwig Dodson, or nicknamed Louis Carroll, wrote Alice in Wonderland. Why I'm talking about it is that if you read the last chapter of Understanding Media, Extension of Man, you'll find this example. And this professor of mathematics wrote a story for children, Alice in Wonderland, and presented it to the daughter of his head of the department of mathematics at Oxford as a birthday gift. Now, this birthday gift is very unusual because, as McLuhan says, it is the first story written in a non-linear manner. It is not like the king went there and then the queen went and then the prince went, not in a linear fashion, one by one, one by one. It's the first non-linear story. And non-linearity is the foundation of the digital world. When you shoot, in the old days when you shot the film, it was all linear. So even if one correction was to be made, you have to go through the entire process. Not now. You put everything in your memory. There's a central processing system. You pick up dot by dot, everything, and then place it and edit it. So this non-linear world, I think the first non-linear story was written by Louis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. And if you look at that story also talks about theory of relativity. You know, it was a signal towards what Einstein did in 1905. So if you look at that you know, that the main character Alice would go down under earth, she will lose weight, she will lose shape, she will gain shape, she will become overbearing. All that is happening to her. What is later on was described by Mr. Einstein in the famous as Namboodiripad was saying in his introduction, E is equal to mc square, nobody understands. Yes, that is what the medium is. This is what Marshall McLuhan used to say. Whether you understand E is equal to mc square or not, you understand the crux of it. That this is what exactly it meant. It meant something with theory of relativity, where under different gravitations, your weight will come down or go up or whatever it is. And there are many things, you know, related with that. That changed the entire concept of the 20th century world. And Marshall McLuhan was also fascinated by the new development in physics. So this non-linearity was taken to its ultimate extent by Max Planck, black body radiation theory, and where he for the first time talked about the bundle of energy, the quantum energy. And in the quantum energy, what we call the homogeneity and the continuity of the visual sense went away, and the non-linear things and the non-homogeneous sphere came up. So if you look at the beginning of the 20th century, between 1900 to 1905, the three guys who changed the world of 20th century altogether. It was Max Planck, who said black body radiation theory, quantum theory, and it was Sigmund Freud, who came with his theory of sexuality, which again transformed the world as nothing else transformed, and Einstein, who came up with the theory of relativity. Now these three things, along with what Nietzsche did in his philosophy, all that changed the world as nothing else. But coming back to Marshall McLuhan, so he was following all this, he was pursuing all this, and he said that whether you call transport, whether you call any mode of communication, so for him it was a medium which mattered more than the content. He would say that once the medium matures, then the content will come, and the content of one medium will not fit exactly into the content of another medium, because the medium comes with new technology and it requires new kind of content. So the same content of print cannot fit into television, and the same content of television may not fit into the internet now, as we know that 5G is coming, Internet of Things, IoT is coming, and they're going to change the world. But one thing remains valid, holds true even today, is Marshall McLuhan's predictions. Then somebody asked him, what do you say? What is light? He said, you don't know what light is. The moment the bulb goes off in the room, there's no information available to you. It's a plain, simple information. And the moment the light is on, the information you have is very different than what it was when it was not on. So if you look at the information per se, for him, a car was information. He predicted that computers will be translating languages. And today, it's no surprise that everything is being done by the computers with the help of internet and the storage media. So for him, what was important was that there would be a central nervous system, global central nervous system, which will get into our body and mind. That is the most important thing. And it tickles you, and it changes you, it impacts you without you realizing it. And if you look at electricity, if in the house you have got a 220 volt current running in your house, and if you just touch it, what happens? You get a shock, and a shock of life. But the same electricity, where it is flowing in the circuitry of electronic equipments, because the voltage and the current is very less, it's in micro and milliamperes, and when the circuitry is complete and you connect to it either through your earphone or you watch it on television, you change. You are no longer the same person as you were minutes before. This transformation is the crux of the Marshall McLuhan's message that medium is the message, the new technology is the message, and new technology requires different kind of content than what the old technology required. And for television, he said that without the audience, nothing is complete. For this new age of internet, without audience, nothing is complete. And this entire circuitry injects a new feeling, a new hope in our central nervous system. It completely shakes us up. So, and I think that, as the time passes by, we will find McLuhan more relevant. There are a lot of theorists who condemned him when he was, propagating his theory. He was a professor of, he had a desk. I had been to the department, what he called the department, actually he called it a department of culture and technology, but it was a one seat kind of an arrangement. And he was, the boss of all that he surveyed there. So he was in Toronto University and a professor of English literature. He was not a professor of communication. He was a professor of English literature. And he would be traveling, he would be followed. He was supported by advertising guys. And, there was a time when everybody would chase him. Tom Wolfe, one of the practitioners of new journalism and a famous author, would interview him and would write about him, fascinated by him. And Tom Wolfe would say that it was really difficult to understand the man because he would talk about the audio system. Now, this whole business that you move from visual to sound, print to sound, was his ultimate dream. He would say that, pre-Socrates era in the Greek history, what you call the Homer and Iliad's era, where people sang and danced and they did not write. So he says that from Socrates to Plato to Aristotle, they disciplined, they brought all this phonetics involved into it. And he would say that it was the acoustic word, which is the most important word. Even in India, if you look at the acoustic word, the Shruti Parampara of Indian Vedic system, where the people do the mantrochar, is very different than how will you read a mantra. To hear a mantra and to read a mantra are two different things. Acoustic tactiles. Now, Marshall McLuhan was constantly pushing about it. He also said that the word in India for philosophy is far superior in explaining the concepts. He said that darshan shastra is visualization, whereas philosophy is love of knowledge. And there is a great difference between love of knowledge, philosophy, and darshan shastra, whereby gathering knowledge, you can visualize a scenario, acoustic word. And he was always fascinated by the acoustic word. His entire theory actually shows you in that direction. Thank you very much. I think I have gone beyond my time. There are not many stories, but I think I'll come to an end with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And it was really nice listening to you. In fact, when you started, your lecture, you said that 40 minutes is too less a time to talk about Marshall McLuhan. But then you said that you'll be using your journalistic skills to summarize everything. So that you have done very well. But besides that, there's another very important skill which you have, and that is of storytelling. We were all listening to this like, you're telling a story. And in fact, you talk about Marshall McLuhan, his work, his books, but at the same time, you also took us through the history of media. You talked about printing press, you talked about Gutenberg, you talked about telegraph, you talked about telephone, you also talked about radio and television and then internet. So it is actually a lesson on both, the work of Marshall McLuhan and also like, the history of media. So in fact, we do have questions from a student. Sir, we'll take a few questions from the students. I can see one question. It's quite a longish question, but I'll read it out. I really appreciate the effort put in by the student. The name of the student is Lalit, and he's saying that Marshall McLuhan, a great visionary and philosopher, theorized television, mass media, and the mass consumption induced by it. It is all a part of reality now. Since we did not pay heed to the theories of the future, we have a lot of issues to deal with relating to the effect of media on the population. What, according to you, sir, are some of the present theories to pay heed to relating to the future? Because whatever you have shared, sir. I mean, he did talk about future. He did a lot of work. When he talked about television and all. So this is what he's asking, that what kind of attention we should be paying to the present theories. Yes,
Very good question. So actually, the theorists of media complained that Marshall McLuhan talks about the impact of electricity and electric circuitry, as he called, like the equipments, mobile and others, but he does not specify what is, the details of the theory. So he actually did not give any special theory, because he always said that I'm not interested in splitting and dividing. This was done by printing technology to control the process. So he said that we need to look in an integrated manner. And he said that my job is to question. That's what he always said, and to find answers. So for the specific theory, there are a lot of people who are working, but let me tell you that in the modern world, we need to take Marshall McLuhan beyond himself. So beyond himself, when I say that, like he said, sense organs would be intact. Sense organs will transform the man as never before. But he never specified ear, tongue, what senses would be done and what theories. In fact, the sociologists of late 20th century have questioned Marshall McLuhan on this, and there are a lot of people who have started working on the combo, the complementaries of Marshall McLuhan and the other sociologists, and this combo is now who are complementing each other, and a lot of research is being done these days on that.
Preeti Shukla, could you please mute yourself?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Please carry on. Okay, right, sir. I have one more question. Scholars are, this is by Geeta Kashyap. I understand she is academic associate from English journalism department. So she is saying scholars are revisiting Marshall McLuhan with respect to internet and social media. I want to listen from you how medium is the message is still relevant.
Because the technology, what McLuhan says is fix, unfix, fix, unfix. That's what 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, NAND, NOR, and OR. Digital world does not talk about decimals. No number is 1 to 9. Digital world talks about 0 and 1. only two numbers, binary system. Now, entire software is written in that binary language. So it's yes or no, yes or no kind of a situation. So the new world, which we are thinking about as a new world, actually this medium will be replaced only when electricity as a source will be replaced by something else. Today, electricity is at its core. And if electricity is at its core and neuroscience is on the other side, this combination of neuroscience and the electricity and the human, all three will join hand to create a new world.
Right, sir. So this is one question from my side on a lighter note.
Right.
When we talk about a medium is the message, when the book came, the title was The Medium is the Massage. So like, what is the story behind it?
So medium is the message. See, it is all, as I told in the beginning, I took some time to tell you the story about James Joyce and his book, Finnegan's Wake. Now, this Finnegan's Wake was read by McLuhan and his friends, his son. They would read it aloud. They would decide that they would read a page every day. In fact, this book came in 1939, Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, and they were reading it, father and son, in the later years also. And there only, it was James Joyce who was indicating that the new technology will transform the world, whatever be the content of it. So whosoever is the passenger in the car gives you the message. Car is the messenger. Marshall McLuhan not only talked about the feedback and automation. Automation liberated the entire world of hierarchy. The hierarchy was broken down. If you look at, when he talks about his book, he says that when the photographs started getting published of the Crimean War with the help of telegraph was hardly invented then in 1846. And in 1854, the Crimean War was being fought. For the first time in the history of mankind, the decisions were taken by the generals sitting back in London, rather than decision was taken on the spot by the head of the army platoon there, because that control process changed with the help of telegraph. The news was coming instantly at the speed of electricity. So the entire world got changed. So one telegraph, one platform changed the way you control the processes. And in the car, some people say, earlier he used to say that, at the looking mirror, when you look in the mirror, you notice that what is coming from behind. Now, if you accept that as feedback of the car coming from behind so that you better control your car, there were the guys who believed in the theory of feed forward. Now, feed forward was that the car coming from the behind will show you how you are going to run your car forward based on the information received in the looking mirror. Feed forward. So a car was a means of communication. It will transform the privacy. Marshall McLuhan always talked about privacy. He said that Americans have a habit of going out alone in the car for privacy, and they come back home for their social gathering. And because they want to go out for privacy, they the cars built in America were larger in size than the cars built in Japan and anywhere else in the world. So it's communication. He was invited by IBM in his early years because he had already become quite famous, and he told them that you are still selling machines. You're not selling machines. You're in the business of information. You're in the business of information. IBM has not been able to catch it up even till this date. The people who came in the business of information, if you look at CNN television, it started in 1980. Mark Zuckerberg was born in 1984. Maybe slightly before that. They are the young people. And if you look at their abilities, they understood the information business. A company like Google understood the business of information. Today, if you look at the numbers, I don't know today, but say by 2018-19, the internet advertising crossed the advertising of television, broadcast, and print globally. That's where the internet is today. And it has not only transformed the information business. If you look at the commercial business, Walmart, a big retail store, Amazon has pushed it back. It's very fascinating what information can do and how information changes the mindset, how information changes the nature of business, how information changes your way of life. This is what McMahon used to talk about.
Okay, right. So we have one question from the student, and our ADG also have a question. So first I'll ask student's question, and then I'll ask him to ask his question himself. So this is question from Kritika. She is saying, according to you, sir, how does web and digital media shape our consciousness?
Yes, because see, this is a small electric circuitry. There are few amplifiers and microchips and others. And when you put it, you put your earphone or you hear it, it goes into your central nervous system and it influences you. You are not the same person what you were just before. The beauty of this internet is that the information you get and the response you provide is instant. There's no pause between the two. So you receive an event and then you are on it messaging, either on Facebook or Twitter or something, some chat box, and you're reacting to it. It all goes instant. There's no pause between that. There's no control in between that. So it breaks the hierarchy.
Yes, okay, right, sir. Satishji, yeah.
Sir, this concept about this feedback and feed forward was really amazing. I mean, someone has not read it, and Ulysses one has again tried to read it, but had to leave it multiple times midway, etc. So my query is this: you are just mentioning about Mark Zuckerberg or Google or the current the information, the development. I know you also use the word that probably Google understands the information scenario better. I mean, that is where I just have a point. I mean, I don't know whether it's a point of what do you call a point of order kind of a thing, or a point, because of course, starting from be Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg, or even before that, Mr. Microsoft company, etc. When they started it, they didn't do it with a larger plan. I mean, even the development of Google, or for that matter, even Facebook or even Insta, now probably it is fine, but the initial beginnings were not as a planned development, sir. So it is. I mean, how much of it you can give the credit for the beginners or the prime movers, and how much for the people who have every day they also are changing. There are more. I'm sorry, sir. I hope you got the point. So can you call it an individual? It is not an individual. It is something like Mahatma Gandhi, led the freedom struggle kind of a thing. I mean, somebody would have started it, but things keep on changing, as per.
I didn't get your Mahatma point. I didn't get your Mahatma point.
No, sir. No, what I'm saying is that something like, Mahatma Gandhi led the freedom struggle. I'm only using a point in the sense, it is not one person, there are so many people, from occasion to occasion, ideas get changing. It is not a single man driven kind of a thing, even this Google or this information development, there are multiple brains are working together.
No, I understand it. Yes, you're absolutely right. And I think you are complete. Otherwise, you can finish your sentence.
No, I'm through, sir. I just made it. You were saying that these people understand it better. That is the point where I just wanted to know whether I don't know whether they also understand, because they are also getting pushed in the currents, in the currency, or in the current of the whole information deluge. I don't know whether even Mark Zuckerberg or these people also clearly understand. That's the point.
I understand your point. See, if you look at the initial investors and the early passion of these people, when the owner of Microsoft, Bill Gates, was invited by the Harvard University for the valedictory address of their MBA session, he said that thank God that I left the college, that is Harvard, immediately after taking admission and did not complete my degree. Had I been present during those 2 years, I would have taken the entire batch along with me. You get it? He said that had I been present in the class for 2 years, I would have taken the entire batch from here.
That's true.
Meaning, he knew what he's doing. He struck a deal at a very early stage. He got one of his batchmates from there as a CEO and friend, and he made a deal with a Mexican who had announced to enter into the business and made his first big business deal. They knew, if you look at the early investors of Google, there's an Indian, Sriram, who invested, the first investment. And he is a guy, if he pays you the check, you must be sure that your company will become a multi-billion-dollar company. So if your ideas are attracting some of the finest financiers of the world, then you must be sure that whatever you are doing, you understand it, and you also understand its implications. I agree with you that technology changes very fast, and with the change in technology, the fortunes may change. I agree with you that Yahoo was a great company at a certain point of time. It failed on the way because it could not understand the information as Google understood it. So there are breaks in between, but Yahoo had made certain very good investments in Alibaba, and they might make fortunes out of that. So what I'm saying is that you must understand the importance of information, flow of information, and the big ideas. This transformational value of information flow actually is changing the entire world. The father-son relationship, the mother-daughter relationship, everything is changing. There's a story of it's there on YouTube. You people can watch it. There's a lady, and he wants to, the daughter is taking over from father or something like this, and the lady is perplexed. She doesn't know how to react, or how to interact with the young lady. So she invited her over dinner. And when they went for the dinner, and she had organized everything very well in the best restaurant, some of the finest foods being served, and there she discovered that the lady has disappeared somewhere, and she was just trying to locate her. And by the time she came back, she was so frustrated, she didn't know what to say because she thought that her entire, the dinner organized is a waste, and she got frustrated. But then when she said that I was, texting my friends about what wonderful arrangement you have made here. And she was on Facebook and everything, and all the relatives and every friend knew that she has come to a great place to be organized by that lady. The relationship changed in a minute. That's what this world is, sitting next to you. People text. And by the time you realize that the dinner is over, it was a good dinner, the entire world knows that dinner was good. It is changing the relationship, it's changing the people, it's and it's also changing the generations. It is very difficult to understand the next generation. They multitask, they're listening to music and they're also studying. And as a father, you enter into the daughter's bedroom and you just go, what will she understand? She is listening music. But she's doing it because her nervous system is different, accustomed than our nervous system. They were not trained for that.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know whether I have been able to
Explanation. Thank
answer
you
the
very much.
question, but
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. You are a great storyteller with so much of knowledge, and definitely like 40 minutes is too less a time. And we would like you to come here and interact with our students on other occasions as well. So now I would like to request my colleague, Professor Anand Pradhan, Course Director, Hindi Journalism, to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Professor Anubhuti Yadav. And also let me thank Dr. Pramod Kumar and Director General, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Professor Sanjay Dwivedi, for organizing a very, thought or, intellectually very stimulating discussion. I think, personally, if you ask me, McLuhan is really a very enigmatic person and writer, a philosopher, very difficult to understand. Of course, you can read his one-liner, maybe 100 or 1,000 one-liners. He always talks in metaphor, and it's very, mesmerizing, those one-liners. It will certainly, immediately impact you. But it is very difficult to understand its nuances and, how it unfolded in, coming decades. Thank you very much, sir, for, this very stimulating discussion. I hope, our students must be interested after listening you about McLuhan. Even I am now very much interested in, trying to understand McLuhan. When I don't know who decided the topic, it may be you also, sir, that reinventing the McLuhan, Marshall McLuhan. I think I personally, see Marshall McLuhan like many other philosophers or theorists of 50s or 60s or 70s. Like once Devi Prasad Chattopadhyay wrote a very famous book about Indian philosophy, What is Dead and What is Living in Indian Philosophy. So similarly, what is dead and what is living in McLuhan's philosophy or theory, that is most important for all of us to understand in present circumstances. Not everything what Marshall McLuhan said is still relevant. There are so many things. Let me quote one very interesting paragraph from, what Marshall McLuhan himself said. And I'm quoting Marshall McLuhan. He said, I am resolutely opposed to all innovations. Very interesting. He said, I am resolutely opposed to all innovation, all change. But I am determined to understand what is happening, because I don't choose just to sit and let the juggernaut roll over me. Many people seem to think that if you talk about something recent, you are in favor of it. The exact opposite is true in my case. Anything I talk about is almost certainly something I am resolutely against. And it seems to me the best way to oppose it is to understand it. So that is the most important thing about Marshall McLuhan, who himself was saying that I am opposed to these changes. What is happening in and around me, which is, almost kind of a juggernaut was rolling over. And he was, as a true philosopher or, intellectual, trying to understand those phenomena, his own terms. And now when we are discussing about Marshall McLuhan, we must be thinking about him in, new environment, about the media, how media is now unfolding. Very interestingly, Marshall McLuhan himself was completely against the television. And now we can realize what he was saying. He once said to one of his friend who was watching television that, do you really want to know what I think of that thing? If you want to save one thread of Hebrew, Greco-Roman, medieval, Renaissance, Enlightenment, modern Western civilization, what he said, you would be better get an X and small all the television sets. So he was saying that, throw all the television set, smash it with an X. And later on, he wrote a letter to, daughter of his son, Eric, about watching television. And this was in 1976. He wrote to her granddaughter, try not to have Emily exposed to hours and hours of TV. It is a wild drug which permeates the nervous system, especially in the young. So, of course, he was saying medium is the message, but he was also very much concerned about the message itself. So, I think, Marshall McLuhan, a very complicated, theoretician, writer, philosopher, and what he himself suggested that we should always try to understand whatever is happening in and around us. And I personally think what Ajay ji tried to, explain here to our students and faculty members as well, that we should read McLuhan and try to understand the present circumstances and how media is unfolding, how, overall media ecology is unfolding. What he termed, in his famous book, the famous book which he wrote, Medium is the Message. I think we all should read and try to understand the present circumstances and, also, question what he was trying to question at that time. So thank you so much, sir, for coming and, giving such a stimulating discussion or lecture to all of us. And your lecture has certainly raised a lot of questions, but I always think that, a good lecture should never give answers, but raise more questions. And that is how we move forward in, understanding things. So your lecture has raised a number of questions. In future interaction, as Dr. Anubhuti said, that we will invite you for interaction with faculty as well, and not only students, but faculty as well. And I would also like to thank all my colleagues and especially my students, including our Director General, Professor Sanjay Dwivedi, ADG Sri Satish Nambudripad, Dean of Student Welfare, and who is also heading the outreach program, Dr. Pramod Kumar, and Dean Academics, Professor Gobind Singh, and all my faculty colleagues who are present here, listening you, very quietly, but must be, with a full of questions about your lecture. Thank you so much, sir, for, sparing your time and coming and, sharing those stories with us. Thank you so much. And I would
Thank-
let me also thank my students for raising very pertinent questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Pradhan. Thank you very much. And before we conclude, I just have a request to Professor Dwivedi and Professor Pramod Kumar that you have to invite Sir once again to interact with the faculty. I mean, it could be a one-day faculty development program on communication or communication theory. So this is a request from my side and from the faculty side to you. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot.
ADG can also join, I say.
Yes, ADG can also join. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone, to students and to faculty and to the DG and Mr. Namudripad and Professor Yadav and Professor Anand Pradhan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.